I just want to say that the government, society at large, wants you to settle for less. You know, they sell you a dream when you're young, the dream that you could be president. Anybody in this classroom can be president in this great country. And, well, uh, then they'll point out somebody like Barack Obama, who became president, uh, and say, well, you could be Barack. And in theory, you can, but in reality, you can't. Uh, Barack went to Harvard. Uh, uh, he didn't have a normal black person childhood. Uh, and a lot of those adversities and things that he went through made him the man that he was and is. And, you know, I don't know that he would have been president had he not gone to Harvard. When you go to Harvard, you're initiated into that crowd. And if you don't initiate, you don't survive and you end up leaving or not going there at all because there's many other initiations before you get there. Uh, all the stipulations and things you need to do to qualify. And it goes beyond having good grades. Uh, it could be simply good bloodlines. And who's going to build a new library at Harvard, and stuff like that. But it's just I'm back to the story, which is they try to sell you these dreams, and I'm not telling you not to dream, and I'm not telling you to not dream big, and that's the exact opposite of what I'm telling you is to dream big and to not listen to the naysayers. Uh, but I just want to point out that a lot of people in your life, from being a young child and on, are trying to get you to settle. You know, either you didn't have good grades in school, you weren't a good student, uh, society or your community doesn't expect much from you because of your bloodlines or because of your school history. And everybody's judged on their school history. That's why you go to school, to be scaled against everybody else, and where you fall on that scale. Uh, and if you fall high on the scale, you go to Harvard, some of you. And if you don't, you don't. Uh, and if you don't, they'll tell you, well, you can always dig ditches, you can cut lawns, you can paint, you know, and none of those jobs are bad. But the dream they're selling you, those aren't the jobs. The job is to be president, CEO, chairman of the board, entrepreneur. Now, I guess today would be influencer, uh, stuff like that. But and it's hysterical. They have I don't know which the name of the college is, but I'm sure it won't be the only one that have a degree in influencer. It's like my friend of mine or somebody I knew went to school and got a degree at Hofstra. He got a full boat because he was black. He got all scholarships and everything, and he went to school to be an entrepreneur. And I'm like, that's an oxymoron because entrepreneurs don't go to school to be entrepreneurs. It's not like an accountant or a doctor or a lawyer. An entrepreneur is born, they're not taught. Either you are an entrepreneur or you're not. And you don't have to go to school. And if you go to school, it doesn't make you an entrepreneur. Bill Gates was not an entrepreneur. Steve Jobs was. You know, so Walt Disney was an entrepreneur. Uh, Henry Ford was an entrepreneur. Stuff like that. They invented things. They created things. When I say Bill Gates is not, because he stole his things, and Zuckerberg is not an entrepreneur because he stole from MySpace, and you know nothing he did was original. And if Facebook did anything that was original, it didn't come from Mark. Mark might have got the credit, but it didn't come from Mark. So it's just I'm an entrepreneur, I believe. And it's not. I don't have to have. And most entrepreneurs, um, whatever idea they come up with, people tell them they're crazy. People tell them, "Oh, forget it. That's never going to happen. It's never been done before. What makes you think you can do it?" Uh, things like that. They say the market's just not there for it. And like they fought Henry Ford when he built the Model T because everybody had horses. Who's going to buy a car when you have a horse? And the cars weren't that good, but you didn't have to feed it hay and clean up its droppings. So, they had that as well. And even back in those days, they had electric cars, and there just was no market for it. There was no infrastructure for it. And that's why it took many decades later for it to be where it is today. And today it's even pretty much a failed market, because of the lack of infrastructure. I went to the supermarket today and I saw one charging tower for an electric car out of the whole parking lot. Now maybe there were more, but I didn't look for them. But the one I saw was the one, you know. And with that kind of infrastructure, you're not going to have mass electric cars. And the other problem is the batteries, of course. You can't throw them away. And when you have to replace them, they're extremely expensive. And all the problems that are related to the electric car, which is why when they had it back in the Model T days, it didn't take off. It didn't go anywhere. And back then, oil was cheap, gasoline was cheap, and there was no need. And electric was just beginning, so it wasn't like a possibility. I mean, the motor, electric motor, and the idea, the concept, and even the construction of an electric car was all possible, but there's more to it than that, you know. And I just think that society and corporations and universities, and government, they all try to keep you down. They all try to make you settle for less. When you go to the courthouse and they offer or you deal with an insurance company and you accept their offer, the deal is done. There is no appeal. There is no wait till tomorrow. The check will be in the mail that day. If you have direct deposit, it could be in your account in the morning or even that night if you accept the deal. And you know, it's that quick. You're done. You got the money, and you go home. Now you might get $10,000 for whatever accident or whatever reason you have an insurance company involved in your life. Uh, but you could get millions. But millions means hiring lawyers, millions means paying lawyers, millions means waiting years and years. Millions means uh, appeal after appeal, trials, expert witnesses. Um, they're going to call you every name in the book. They're going to call you a liar, a cheat, a money hungry, greedy. They're going to say everything bad about you. Uh, And in the end, you might not get nothing. You might get absolutely nothing. And where if you took the 10,000, you go and, I don't know, go on a trip and call it a day. And, you know, and I'm not saying one decision you should take or not. I mean, it depends on the circumstances, of course. Uh, it's just that they're trying to lowball you. They want to lowball you, because when you have all those trials and all those appeals and hiring the lawyers, the other side, the insurance company has to hire all those lawyers and do all those appeals and motions and all the expert witnesses on their side and all that stuff. And like I said, I don't know the case that we're discussing or the merits of it. Um, but uh, that's why they lowball you, because they're trying to get out paying the least amount of money they can. And you can't blame them for doing that. They're not going to offer you $3 million when they can offer you 10,000 and call it a day. They're not going to do that, and they don't know how you feel until they make the offer and see your reaction. You know, and they might be able to tell you what your reaction is going to be, considering the merits of the case, but they'll try and lowball you anyway. And the lawyers are paid. If they come in with a lower number, they get a higher number. So stuff like that goes on. And, it's just when you go to school, uh, if you don't get straight A's, if you're not on the honor roll, if you're not in advanced classes, if you don't graduate high school with credits of college credits already under your belt, you know, they don't have much hope for you. They want the ones that excel and do well within their program. And that's the problem. It's a program. They are programming you. They are programming you to think the way they want you to. And the more you think the way they want you to, then they'll advance you to Harvard. They'll advance you to the presidency. You know, uh, Obama did a lot of things, but he didn't do anything risky. You would say Obamacare was risky, but it really wasn't. It was really a bad program. I know a lot of people that paid thousands of dollars a month to have health insurance, and they had like a $2,000 or $3,000 deductible. So that's pretty much means you don't have insurance. You know, I mean, if you have a heart attack, you'll have insurance, but if you break your finger, you don't have insurance. You got to pay out of pocket. You know, so it's a scam, and he really didn't do anything risky. He didn't legalize marijuana when everybody wanted him to. Uh, he didn't fight about Merrick Garland being nominated for the Supreme Court. He pretty much rolled over on that. He didn't fight with Ginsburg to have her resign. It's just I don't think he went the extra mile. He covered up the Milwaukee, I believe it was Milwaukee, um, or Michigan, the water crisis that happened during his tenure, where they couldn't drink their water in towns. Several towns couldn't drink their water because of pollution in their water and lead in their water and all that. And he was saying the water was fine and things like that. And it's just now he didn't create the problem, but he covered it up. So that's what I'm saying. The Democrats are no better than the Republicans. They just play a different game. They come at it from a different angle. It's just like the defense and the offense. The defense doesn't play the same football game that the offense plays. And but they're still playing one game. They're still playing the game, and they're still trying to win the game. And they play their part, and that's what the whole thing of government is. It's a game. It's bullshit. all the politicians are bullshit artists, just like all the football players, whether they play defense or offense, are very athletic. They can run. They're very strong. They can catch a ball. Some catch a ball better than others, but they all can run. They all can play their part within the lineup, within the way their position in the game, and it's all very athletic. Whereas politicians are all liars, and whether they're Democrats or Republicans, they know how to lie. They know that's why they don't let. That's why it's very surprising that Barack. It was somewhat surprising that Barack got the presidency because he was only a senator for a very short time. They usually like seasoned senators to be run for office. The ones that have a track record they can hold against them, and that's basically what helped Barack Obama is he didn't have a track record they could hold against him. And the crash of 2008 really propelled him because they were never going to vote for a Republican after the crash of 2008, and it really didn't matter who was running on the Democratic side; he was going to win regardless. So all the factors involved. Uh, it's not simply a matter of if you want to be president, you can be. It's not that. That's like saying if you want to be a Meryl Streep, you can be, and you can't, and you never will be. Um, and and the problem is, you shouldn't want to be a Meryl Streep. You should want to be a Joe or a Mary or whatever your name is, and not a Meryl. Be the best you. Don't be the best Meryl. Be the best. Don't be the best Barack. Be the best you. And look, I dropped out of school in eighth grade. Um, I had promising beginnings. I skipped over kindergarten, went right to first grade because I was too smart for kindergarten. They thought I'd be bored and they wouldn't let me stay in kindergarten. And and I dropped out in eighth grade. I got a GED at 20. Went to college, community college. I didn't graduate then. I still had one class left to one 4 credits left to do to graduate from the community college. But without graduating, I went to Hofstra University, got a 4-year degree from Hofstra. Eventually, down the line, I went back to community college and graduated from the community college. So, it's just, I had to close that door. Um, it wasn't really necessary. It wasn't affecting me. It didn't really change my life in any way. They had a graduation that I didn't go to, and I never got my diploma from the community college. And it's just I didn't follow the prescribed prescription of the programming, and but that doesn't make me dumb. That doesn't mean I can't be president. I mean, it's unlikely. It wouldn't be down the normal path that most presidents take. Um, I tried to be a CEO and a chairman of the board person, and I had .coms and stuff like that. And when .coms were the thing of the time, like apps are now, uh, and it was very difficult. You know, I had no financial backing. I had no partners. I had nobody wanting to invest in my ideas. I still went forward with them, and I think that's why I'm an entrepreneur. Most entrepreneurs are misunderstood for. If you want to be an entrepreneur, or if you are an entrepreneur, then you know that you're misunderstood by everybody, and it's not for a week; it's for years. Steve Jobs was fired from Apple and brought back years later. And Apple was not a $4 trillion business that it is today. And it wouldn't be a $4 trillion business that it is today without Steve Jobs. You know, uh, so he didn't take the traditional path either, and most entrepreneurs don't take the traditional path. and that's what makes them entrepreneurs. You they do it their own way, and they do it the only way they can. And I look at the world differently. I look at like this picture you're looking at with the hummingbird. I think it's a beautiful picture, and um, I love that picture, and I always have it on my wall. And I bought it because I loved it. And I think the lights turn off automatically and they turn on automatically because there's a timer built into it. So I just set it and forget it. And the candle, that's not a real candle. That's a LED candle, but you can't tell the difference. And it's not dangerous. It's battery. It's not light. It's not fire. So, but that's what I'm saying. I think differently. I don't think, for one, many men have a hummingbird picture in their room. I have my iPad Air right there. Uh, I watch TV on that one, and I watch YouTube on this one, and I'm making my video right now. So, just that's what I'm saying. Dream big. Don't let your grades at school discourage you. Don't let the school you went to discourage you. Uh, don't let your family or the family background of your family discourage you, or the color of your skin discourage you, or the ethnicity of who you are discourage you. And it's like I said on one of the videos. Journey is the first. Life is a journey at first. That's one of the videos I just made the other day. Uh, when you're running a marathon, nobody's cheering you on. They're all at the finish line waiting for you to get there. But they're not. When the marathon starts, there's very few onlookers there. Most of the people at the beginning of a marathon are marathon runners. They're runners. They're not fans. They're not or family members. But there's not really a big fan thing going on at the beginning of a marathon because basically there's nothing to see there. So nobody cheers you on, but you have to keep going and you have to persevere. And even if you don't win, the fact that you finish is winning anyway. And I believe the real winner of a marathon is the one who comes in last. The one who comes in dead last is the real winner because they know they're dead last, but they didn't quit and they kept going. Nobody was cheering them on. There might be nobody at the finish line when they get there, but they didn't quit. They kept going. They made sure they crossed that finish line, regardless of people or outside validation. It was an internal quest. It was an internal journey, and that was what was important to them. They're the strongest people in the race, the ones that come in last. The other ones are doing it for the glory, the validation, the trophy, the money. The guy that comes in dead last ain't getting any of that, and he's really the winner, or she. Um, it's just not looked at that. Society does not reward the loser, who they consider the loser, which is the one who came in last. So, you know, don't worry about which way you're not last.